Are we a product of nature? Are we a product of our environment? Are we a product of our upbringing? If I'm speaking carefully in my own language, which actually can handle these concepts in a way I find acceptable, no, we are not a product of those things, nor are we a product of anything, because to say we're a product separates us, right, from what led to us. Product is an arbitrary designation in that sense. Okay. I am not a product of my brain. My personality is a product. No, I'm a materialist. So often when I'm talking to you, I say, yeah, it's a product of the brain because that's what product really means. But if we have to get careful and talk about what does product mean, the fact is I am my brain. I'm not a product of the things that I am. I am those things. Product implies that I'm separate. Now, am I a product of my DNA? My DNA is distributed in every cell in my body. It's a chemical widely available in my body. Okay. Am I a product of that? That is a part of me. I am that. It is me. When I say me in the fullest normal sense of it includes everything in my body. So I am that DNA. Now, where the DNA came from? Well, it came from the egg and the sperm. So was that my DNA when it was sitting there in an egg? Well, we don't call it a DNA. It's a gamete or something because it's just the half. It's the mix-up. So we like to use that as a threshold because there's this mixing process that goes on. But it still is my DNA. It's half of it, right? Those were my DNA. So it was in two parts then, and those two parts were separated. Now it's still in two parts, but those two parts are together in all the cells in a single molecule. But it seems like there's a claim for saying that that was my DNA, but possibly saying that, well, it wasn't the mother's DNA. The mother had different DNA, and that was her product. But that DNA, just like her other DNA, is in her body. We don't have just one set of DNA. You can have multiple sets of DNA in various weird ways, or in this case, a normal way. So it's like the amniotic fluid was a part of the mother's body. Her liver is a part of her body. She produced all this. It's in her body. When you produce something that's within your system, you produce something in your system. It is you. You produce part of you through a process of transforming some sort of input uh, material, chemicals. So saying you're a product of your parents, well, that makes some sense because we're arbitrarily talking about this separation that we posit. But in reality, there's an overlap there. The DNA in the eggs is arguably, certainly it is my DNA. That particular egg, that copy came and was copied a million times. Certainly that is my DNA. But it's arguably the mother's DNA as well because it's in the mother's body and it's there whether she ever conceives of you or not. You know, whose DNA is it for all the eggs that didn't get grown into a person? No, it's the mother's DNA. It's in her body, and that's as far as it ever goes. It never went beyond there. You happen to go beyond there, provide this threshold where you can hang a word on it, but fundamentally, there's a continuation of life, a continuation of the DNA, and you have this shared identity through it. A shared thing that is you and is the other person, and it's resolvable materially because basically it's the mother's DNA when it's in the mother's body. And that's why the birth is important because that's when the DNA finally leaves her body and could be considered certainly something we want to identify as separate. Why? Because the way brains work, we like to give two different brains two different decisions, even though they might be from one DNA. Okay. So it's improper to talk about being a product of something. As soon as you say, I'm a product of nature, no wonder you decide you're nothing. Because anything that is separate from nature, like a product of nature, because products are separate from the thing they're a product of, then of course there's nothing to it because there's nothing to things that don't play some role in nature. Okay. Now we can arbitrarily with parent and child call it product because at least they're distinguishable. We can look at the parent and child not as parts of each other but because of the separation that grows between them. Okay. If we follow the separation, we'll see it breaks down. But we can do that. But when you're a product of nature, it's not the same thing because you're still a part of nature. It's like being a product of your parent, but instead of being separate, it's your liver. If you're a liver, you're still the product of your parent. The parent's liver is still the product of their biological process, but it remains them. So we don't really talk about it that way, and we remain part of nature. So it doesn't make sense to talk about us as a product of nature. No, we're not a product of nature. We're a system within nature. That's the language. We are a system within nature. That's the language. And but we're influenced by our senses. No, we are all of those nerves. We are the senses. So yeah, we're influenced by ourselves. So yes, there's an influence there. But no, it's not something else influencing us. That's us. So, cheers.